Welcome to Live at Kigali 2022. My name is Pascal Murasira. I'm the moderator of this session. I'm also the managing director of Norrsken. Norrsken is building the largest hub for startups right here in Kigali. And startups is something we have at our heart, as we believe that entrepreneurs are the best chance we have to solve some of the largest solution problems we have on this planet. And today, we have a very interesting topic we are going to talk about, which is about FinTech. Could this be a game changer for the continent? We have already seen a lot of impact all the FinTechs are having in terms of financial inclusion, in terms of building the infrastructure, the payment infrastructure that other businesses are using to conduct a business across countries, across the continent. And this is really a very positive thing that we should be encouraging. And today we have very interesting panelists that we believe at the forefront of promoting FinTech on this continent. And I'm very keen to hear their take on the future of this exciting sector. But before we jump into the conversation, I would like to give them an opportunity to introduce themselves to our audience. I will start with you at my right.
Thank you, Pascal, for giving me the opportunity to introduce myself. My name is Gwendoline Abunaw. I'm the Managing Director for Ecobank Cameroon and the SEMA cluster.
Thank you.
Thank you, Pascal, and I'm grateful to be here and to be a participant in this panel. My name is Njabulo Sithebe. I'm from Johannesburg, South Africa. I work for the Ministry of Finance in South Africa. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's start with you. As a government official, if you look at FinTech as a sector, do you actually believe that it has a potential to become a game changer for growth of this continent of Africa?
Thank you for that question. When you look at the impact that FinTech has had in the Southern African economies, there's sufficient evidence that its impact has been positive from a financial inclusion point of view, from an access to financial services, in growing cross-border payments, helping us with social protection payments. It's all evident that FinTech is important.
Thank you very much. It's rewarding and fulfilling to hear your take on the prospect of FinTech as a government official. Back to you, our banker. When we talk to FinTechs, at least from our perspective at Norrsken, because we are one of the investors, actually we recently invested in a South African FinTech, they tend to describe themselves as the anti-establishment. And the establishment tends to be existing banks. Do you agree with that statement, first of all? And further to that question, do you see these FinTech innovations that are flourishing across the continent as an opportunity or as a threat?
That's a very interesting question, but it's actually what is always discussed. I think that FinTechs and banks are similar and different at the same time. You know, a FinTech is there to use technological platforms to give ease and access to customers, while a bank is a regulated institution that is mandated to collect deposits and give loans. Yes, we do use technological platforms. So you could say, in quotes, a bank is equally a FinTech, but with a license to do more. So in the beginning, obviously, when there's an unknown, when there's somebody coming into your space as a bank, you believe they are coming in to come and steal something. They are disrupting what to you was your normal. But I specifically don't think that FinTechs are a competition or a threat. I think they are an enabler and they're a partner, because banks, we are investing in brick and mortar. We do a bit more than just providing services or making things easier. But we need FinTechs because we might not be able to do the investments at a granular level that a fintech will be able to do for us. And sometimes we equally don't want to invest in certain systems and processes that a fintech can provide for us. So a bank might want to do some integration, and the fintech would serve to us as the integrator. So I believe that they are not a competition, they are not a threat, but they are actually partners that help us to upskill and upgrade what we are actually doing as a bank.
This is very interesting to hear. It's very interesting to hear, and hopefully we can have even more conversations where these fintechs come together with banks to actually discuss how we can together, you and as banks and these fintechs help reach the goals that our colleague from government already mentioned, which is about driving financial inclusion and helping payments, efficiency in payments. Really interesting to hear your take on this. Back to you. Another challenge or opportunity that we see in this fintech sector is on the regulation side. So some innovators say that, yes, we want to accelerate innovations, but this is a regulated industry, as you already mentioned. So how can we stimulate innovations, but also at the same time, make sure that the regulations, the laws we have in place actually protecting the consumers? How can we balance that as public sector, or as a regulator?
Sure. I think the first thing to do is to speak to each other more, getting to understand each other's needs, understand where technology is going, and understand the fears of regulators, because regulators themselves don't understand the space, and sometimes we may think that they are slowing down the process of the development of fintechs, but they could be driven by the fact that there's a lot of unknowns and they are worried about that. We need to always keep in mind that for regulators, the stability of the financial system of a nation is important. But that stability should not drive exclusion of emerging sectors and exclusion of new markets that technology is getting into. So fintechs, in my view, could be differently regulated if we speak more to each other, and if you have a state which is not only about the incumbents and about comfort, but a state which is about the vision and change. It is also important to not to just think of governments as regulators. Yes, government is a regulator, but governments can play a much bigger role as participants in the space. Participants in a sense that they could invest to make the lives of people in the industry much easier. They could utilize the services and be platforms for experiments, because government has a bigger appetite for risk, unlike private companies. And governments could build the right infrastructure as well in collaboration with fintechs. So I do think that we shouldn't just look at government as a regulator, but also as a participant. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Very, very interesting indeed.
Can I jump in
Yeah,
there?
please do.
I think it's important to highlight the fact that when we talk about fintechs in the financial sector, the regulator comes in quite strongly, because the banking sector, the financial sector, is a regulated sector, because you're dealing actually with consumers' money. So you have to be sure that that money is being rightly used and it's not financing what we don't want it to finance. So what we are trying to do as banks, like I said, this is not competition, or it's not a threat, because we need them also to be able to upskill. What we are requiring from the regulator, particularly from my part of Africa, from the Central African space, is speed to action. Because sometimes the fintechs have innovative products that can help, that are clear for us, the fintechs and the financial sector. But the regulator takes some time to understand before approving or not, because it's not a regulation that is existing. So for me, it's asking the regulators to speed up in terms of reaction, and that's where the part of the communication of us talking more, there should be that ecosystem that is built between the fintechs, the banking sector, and the regulations or the regulators, the governments, so that we are all moving at the right pace and not impacting growth. Because the fintechs is, like you said, the opportunity for growth, but growth sometimes is inhibited by speed.
Yeah, very interesting, very interesting. As we conclude this session, very interesting session, our colleague from the public sector mentioned about the government can also be a player in this ecosystem, a participant. So from your side of the private sector, what can a bank do to also like collaborate with these young innovators that are coming up in this space?
I think it's important for banks to also participate in supporting startups and fintechs. And how do we do that? I would use the example of Ecobank. Ecobank actually has a fintech challenge that we do each year. 2021 made it the 4th year where the challenge was done. And the whole idea is to have fintechs in Africa pitch their ideas, and we select 3 winners. And the aim is that as Ecobank, we'll be able to give them the platform that our 33 countries present make available for them to be able to scale up their projects and potentially become, the Googles of Africa. So for us, we take it seriously and we don't consider them, as I said, a threat. But we believe that it is actually a responsibility for us as a Pan-African bank to support fintech startups in Africa.
Yeah, very interesting take, very interesting conversation. I wish we could have more time to even discuss much deeper, but we have a limited time. I would like to thank the audience for being with us and also our distinguished panelists. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Pascal. A great pleasure.